Hey, what's up? Pizza Loving Nerd here. Welcome to a new series called Linux Desktops, because I don't have a good name for it. Basically, I'm going to be looking at as many desktops as I could find for Linux. Might expand to other operating systems that are Unix-like also. However, for now, it's just Linux. Uh, and I have a testing rubric. So basically, the first thing on the rubric is plus 10 desktop uses under 800 megabytes. So I have GNOME, that's what the first episode is going to be on. I have GNOME running on Arch, so this is GNOME 3.32. And let's check the first one. So desktop uses under 800 megabytes. So that's a plus 10. Now let's see here. It appears that GNOME is using 1.1 gigabytes. Now I did give this VM 800 megabytes of RAM, but yeah. So GNOME, it says that the software install, even though I don't have anything running to install software, but it says that the software install is using 100 megabytes. However, GNOME and the system is still using 500. And if you subtract evolution alert, alarm notify, usage, and software install, you still get around 1 gigabyte, which is around how much GNOME is using. So GNOME, I will not be considering lightweight. I think that's obvious. Now the next point is if it's customizable. Now GNOME is not really that customizable. Sure, you can get the tweak tool and everything. I think I have the tweak tool installed. Do I? Here it is, GNOME tweaks. Sorry, it's slow. It's in a VM. But really, if you want to do any customization at all, you have to use either the tweak tool or a bunch of GNOME extensions, which bog down your system even more. It already uses 1 gigabyte, then you add a bunch of GNOME extensions and it uses a lot more. So I will not be considering it customizable. It does look and feel pretty modern, which is a good thing. I do like the new icon set put into GNOME. I know it's not on all of the GNOME systems yet because this is running Arch, but still. However, I'll be subtracting 5 because it doesn't have desktop icons. So far we're at 15. Or actually we're at 5. It's not customizable and it doesn't use under 800 megabytes, and both of those are worth 10. But it did get points for looks and feels modern. That's worth 10 points, but then minus 5 for desktop icons. Now, I'm going to be giving GNOME another 20 points for having an ecosystem. So, everything, GNOME obviously runs the development of GDK. So, also everything installed by GNOME right now is a GNOME application. So we got GNOME Books, we got GNOME Boxes, which is a virtual machine maker, GNOME Builder, an IDE, GNOME Calendar, Cheese, which is a webcam utility, GNOME Chess, GNOME Clocks, Contacts, just tons and tons of stuff. And there's an ecosystem also. So there's Nautilus. Everything is just made to work with GNOME, and it all works flawlessly together. So I'm going to be giving GNOME 10 points for an ecosystem. Now we have 5 points for every major feature. Now, I don't really, by major feature, it's something that wouldn't really be on another desktop. So really all I got was GNOME Display Manager, because most desktops use some sort of other display manager like LightDM or yeah, that's all I can think of. LightDM. Most desktops use LightDM. However, GNOME rewrote this display manager called GDM, and GDM, which stands for GNOME Display Manager, is one of my favorite display managers when it comes to looks. So I'm going to be giving GNOME 5 points for display managers. And also, GNOME extensions are a really cool thing. GNOME extensions basically let you get tons of extra features on GNOME. Although sometimes you do have to use them as a replacement for a lack of a certain feature. But still, you can get, there's tons of nice ones, such as Dash to Dock, which turns this part into a dock. Dash to Panel, which lets you make your own panel. There's GS Connect, which allows you to connect your phone and it integrates with GNOME. Actually a fork of KDE Connect. But GNOME extensions are an awesome feature. And sometimes I wish they were on Budgie, which is my favorite desktop at the moment. I feel like GS Connect would be awesome on Budgie. And the last feature I'll be talking about is compatibility. Uh, I want you guys in the comments to find a Linux distro that isn't compatible with GNOME, other than like NixOS and KOS. Those both use KDE. But most distros are compatible with GNOME. Pretty much almost every distro I can think of, except for those two, have, and a few others like Solid K and Solid X, have a GNOME ISO. Basically, any distro that supports multiple desktop environments has a version for GNOME. So I know there's some distros that are only that only work on one desktop environment, but most ones that do support them can run GNOME. And even if it can't run GNOME, GNOME is in almost every distribution's repository. KDE, I can't say that for because now it's not in Red Hat's repository because they announced that Red Hat's getting rid of KDE. Also, you know for a fact that most applications that aren't Qt based, any GDK application, I guarantee will work on GNOME. So, GNOME is really good for compatibility. So, I'll be giving it 15 points for those features. Now, I do have something wrote down +3 for every minor feature, but honestly, GNOME doesn't really have any minor features that I can think of that other desktops don't have, other than layout. Now, one thing I'd like to say, I put in things to note about GNOME, that workflow is very different to other desktops. So, on most desktops, you have like a start menu on the bottom, you have your icons. GNOME doesn't have that. You have to go into your activities in order to do anything, which I don't really like. I feel like it's an extra click, but still, it's a different workflow than most other desktop environments you will be experiencing. Now, I have -3 for every major issue, or minor issue, and -5 for every major bug. GNOME is pretty stable, although there is one issue. Some of these animations are known for being laggy. Now, right now it's pretty laggy just because I'm in a virtual machine while I'm recording. But also, on my ThinkPad, I've experienced lag with the animations just on day-to-day use, so I'm going to be docking it 2 points for that. It's just a static, so I don't really care. So, overall, GNOME got a score of 38, which is, I think, around medium in the quality so far. I don't really know how other desktops are going to stack up to this rubric, but GNOME got 38 as its score, and GNOME is a pretty good base desktop. That's what the Linux community, that's what most distros use it. It's sort of the standard when it comes to desktops in Linux, and that's why I chose GNOME as the desktop for the first episode. I mean, most Linux enthusiasts might not agree with that statement, but most developers use GNOME as a standard because of the GNOME team's involvement with GDK and stuff. So a lot of Linux companies use GNOME as a standard. Honestly, I don't really like the GNOME that much, but I feel like it's the closest to an actual standard we have because KDE uses Qt and not GDK. Budgie uses a bunch of GNOME technologies. XFCE a lot of the time, not all of the time, but most of the time uses GDK2, which is an older version of GDK. And GNOME is developed alongside GDK, and that's why GNOME has sort of become the standard for development and desktops on Linux. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.